Lawmakers in one state want to enshrine in law the right of landlords to reject Section 8 tenants and make sure that no local municipalities pass laws forcing them to take them. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Kentucky. Now, Kentucky is known to be a very right-leaning, more property rights oriented, landlord friendly state, okay? And the law that they're trying to pass there right now, it kind of proves it. It kind of proves the fact that, hey, this might be one of those places you want to consider investing in instead of, focusing on places where they don't treat you right. Focus on the places where, hey, they're passing this sort of law that I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so the law that the state lawmakers are trying to pass is a law that makes it illegal for local municipalities to pass bans on landlords rejecting Section 8 tenants. So basically what they're saying is landlords have the right to reject the Section 8 tenant, to not accept the voucher if they want to. And, it is a very strong property rights law. And it takes into consideration the fact that, hey, the federal government program is a voluntary program. And there's no reason why a landlord should be forced to take these tenants they don't want up in their property, okay? It is not illegal, discrimination against a person based on race or sexual orientation or religion or anything like that. It has to do with landlords who want to participate in this socialist government program. They are allowed to, but those who don't, they're allowed to not participate in it. Now, I'm 100% in support of that, okay? Actually, I'd be more in support of them getting rid of the socialist program altogether. But since we know that's not going to happen, then this is the second best alternative, okay, where you can choose whether you want to participate or not. And the problem that a lot of people have is a lot of landlords don't want to participate. Rather than fixing the program, rather than fixing the issues that they have with the program, they want to demonize us. They want to make it look like we are greedy, we are selfish, and we're hurting these people. Well, maybe those people need to take responsibility for their own situation, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's a good idea for a state to, basically enshrine into law the right of landlord to reject Section 8 tenants? Or do you believe that landlords should have to accept them? Okay, you already know what I think. I make that very, very clear. Okay, our property rights dictate that if we're not able to control who we allow into our properties and who we disallow into our properties, then we don't have any property rights. Anyway, let me get into this article. We'll go over a few of the details here. This article is coming from somerset-kentucky.com, and it says, GOP bill would ban Kentucky cities from requiring landlords to accept Section 8 vouchers. All right, let's get into it. Kentucky cities could not require landlords to take federal low-income housing vouchers, also known as Section 8 vouchers for rent, under a bill passed out of a Senate committee Wednesday. Housing and tenant advocates who strongly oppose the proposal say it could potentially stop efforts by Kentucky's two largest cities to prevent housing discrimination. Bill sponsor, Senator Stephen West, Republican from Paris, told members of the Senate State and Local Government Committee that Senate Bill 25 would prevent cities such as Louisville and Lexington from forcing a property owner to accept the Section 8 program. One of the things that I've mentioned many times before is a lot of states, they'll be more right-leaning, but then you'll have pockets of these very anti-property rights, cities sitting inside a more conservative state. And that's a big problem because they will try to pass local laws that are just as bad as what you see in California. And, I see that in like my former hometown of Kansas City. And I think they passed a law very similar to this where landlords are required to take Section 8 vouchers. And I mean, it's ridiculous. Not only that, but they're pushing for stuff like free lawyers, free eviction lawyers for tenants. And, you never know if they're going to try to come up with stuff like rent control or strong eviction protections on top of that. Okay, so I don't like it when these local municipalities try to pass laws that are more restrictive than the state law. So, in my opinion, the state law should trump these local municipalities. Now, that doesn't always work out for landlords because in places like California, the state law is still extremely restrictive. But, you know, it's better than nothing. It's better than saying, okay, our entire business can be ruined, can be completely destroyed by a bunch of far left-leaning communists who took over the local city council or whatever, okay? So anyway, let me continue. That's where you have a conflict, West said. If you force a property owner to accept Section 8, I would say that is unconstitutional. I like this guy. The bill passed 8-1 along party lines. It now advances for consideration by the entire state Senate. West said that some of this is preemptive. With this legislation and that, there is a housing crisis in Kentucky's largest cities, driven by inflation and strict zoning laws preventing housing construction. And he's really hitting the nail on the head right there, okay? A lot of the housing shortage is actually being caused by the cities, municipalities, the government itself, okay? They make it so difficult and so expensive to build. And I'm not saying this is the case in Kentucky. As far as I know, Kentucky is one of the less expensive places throughout the country, but it is probably more expensive to build there and more restrictive than necessary. And by simply making it easier to build, it would allow a lot more people to have housing, okay? People, I mean, the developers, they want to build. They want to, I mean, if I could be a developer, I would do it. But, you know, there's such a huge amount of money necessary to get into it. You know, like the reason the housing costs so much, and I admit, some of the laws, they sound great on paper. They're like, oh, you know, we're going to make, you know, housing safer. We're going to make housing, you know, more spaced apart. We're going to make, you know, neighborhoods more just aesthetic. And it sounds great on paper, right? But the problem with that is that it doesn't allow for more affordable housing to be built. So if you look at a lot of the zoning laws and stuff right now, I'm always talking about how I'm a strong believer in mobile home parks, okay? How that could be a method to provide affordable housing to people. But a lot of the zoning laws, a lot of the city, you know, laws, they ban anything that would allow you to build a new mobile home park. That's why you don't see new construction of mobile home parks. And by taking away, you know, these close, less expensive housing options, well, guess what? Now you're making it impossible for a lot of people to find affordable housing. So, you know, I mean, that's a different story. I've talked about that before, but, you know, it is part of the reason why I sit here and I'm like, hey, stop passing these laws. These laws are not making housing more affordable. Stop trying to force us to take Section 8. Like, forcing a landlord to take Section 8 tenants is not going to make housing either more affordable or more available. It's going to do neither. The only thing it's going to do is it's going to create a system where landlords have to come up with some other reason why they reject these people. And, you know, if they do take Section 8 and they don't want it, right, that could drive up their costs because, you know, Section 8 has its own additional costs required to operate. You know, I'm not saying Section 8 is all bad and that, you know, they treat you like complete garbage. I've had Section 8 tenants before and I don't like it. I don't like the program. I don't like the hoops you have to jump through. I don't like, you know, the government being party to the negotiations between me and my tenant, okay? I just don't like any of that stuff. And right now, you know, it's a necessary evil for some landlords to deal with all of this nonsense. You know, some landlords, they love it. They take the money and they're able to make a great profit. But I'm not one of those people who says I need a Section 8 tenant in order to find a good tenant to put into any of my properties. Okay, I can find market rate, people willing to pay the market rate who have actual jobs who can pay the rent and fill up all my units and have zero vacancies. So yeah, I don't need Section 8. Most landlords throughout the country don't need Section 8. And it hurts me to see that, hey, the erosion of our property rights, like this guy said, this Senator Stephen West said, could possibly be unconstitutional, yet they are still pushing for it. Affordable housing advocates in the state told The Lantern that no local city ordinance currently mandates that landlords accept a tenant using low-income housing assistance to help pay rent. That includes a Louisville ordinance that bans landlords from refusing to rent to someone based on their source of income, including if a tenant is applying for a rental with a housing voucher. Lexington is also considering a similar ban. So yeah, they're talking out of the sides of their mouth here. They said that no local city ordinance mandates landlords accept the tenant using housing assistance, right? But then they mention that Louisville already has an ordinance that bans landlords from source of income. You know, it's like, oh, no, we're not banning you from rejecting housing vouchers, but we are banning you from discriminating based on source of income. And it's like, that's the same thing. You're not fooling anybody, okay? And fortunately, the state senator, he saw this and he's like, yeah, this is a complete joke. You know, you're lying and you're taking away the property rights of these landlords, and we got to put a stop to it now. Okay, so I want to see a law like this passed. I want to see it passed in Nebraska, where I live. Okay, I'd like to see it passed in Missouri, where I also invest. Okay, so these sort of laws, they need to be passed everywhere that doesn't already have these stupid restrictions and, you know, trying to mandate ridiculous forced Section 8 vouchers onto people who don't want to deal with the program.